Rightio guys, you win. You got me the likes, so I guess it's time to talk about me. So yeah, this video we're going to talk about some of the mistakes I've made, my regrets, and pretty much just touch on my Subarus. So let's start with the first mistake, which was the GCA. It was a great car. Yes, I hated it at times. Yes, I blew up the gearbox. I think it was within a month of owning the car. But most people think I got rid of it because of the rust hole in the boot, but that was just a little factor. Like, I wasn't too concerned. The main reason I did was because it was pretty much as modified as I could get it without spending $10,000-$20,000 on the car, because it was at the limit of the gearbox and the motor. So it wouldn't have just been a gearbox upgrade, but I would have had to upgrade the gearbox and the motor. Do I regret getting rid of that? Yes. Every day I regret getting rid of that car. Because even though it did have the rust hole in the boot, it was a extremely clean example of a GC8. And I know most of my friends would agree with that. And it was just nicely modified, and it was pretty much well known. It's the car that most people know me for. And yeah, it's a car that made people think I was actually 3P Garage, not Nathan. Which is kind of understandable, because apart from Nathan, I was the first person to run custom stickers on their car, which were never really straight because someone may have rushed to get them on for a Happy Laps day. The next Subaru I got was it was the Forester, which, again, people give me a huge hard time over because I never actually finished it. It was going to be a beast. Like, I was happy. I was so excited for it. I had a big turbo with a nice big external wastegate ready to go on. I had a version 7207 out of a Spec C, out of my friend's one. And it had already made 260 kilowatts. So it was a very ready motor and very capable of making the power. Had all the E85 injectors, so 1000cc injectors. I also purchased an R200 that I was going to fabricate eventually and put in. But typical me, I got bored and frustrated, and without really thinking, put it up for sale and parted it out. Luckily, it did live on for a while with my friend who bought it. Again, he is still bugging me to buy it. Well, not even buy it, to have it given back to me. But I currently don't have the funds to do what I want to do with it, and yeah, I don't want to bite off something that I can't finish again. Like, I want to, when I get my next project car, I want to be able to finish it, because yeah, it was hard enough giving up on it the first time, let alone giving it up on a second time. Okay, now this one here is tough. My STI. Me and Nathan both bought our STIs and built our STIs expecting to do the Sprint series at Queensland Raceway. But due to mechanical issues with mine and Nathan being Captain Slow, we never actually ended up getting out there to do that. My car ran into issues the very first day I drove it. The hub wanted to fall off, I had coolant leaks, and then I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, well, actually, within 3 days of owning it, someone had reversed into it, so I spent a few weeks at a panel beater, which was a slight inconvenience, but it ended up looking pretty good afterwards. A few weeks after I got it back from the panel beater, my turbo decided to die, and that's when the problems really started, and they just flowed and just never really stopped. It was having boost issues. We went through everything. I thought it might have been my boost tee, boost leaks. And when I pulled my exhaust off to look at my cat, I've noticed a slight bit of oil in my dump pipe, which if you've owned a turbo car, you know that shouldn't be the case. I had a bit of feel of the shaft play, and lo and behold, the turbo was dead. But luckily, well, for what I thought luckily, I still had my big turbo from the Forester, but we ran into an issue with the external gate and the up pipe, which fouled on the steering knuckle. So I ended up getting the big boy turbo off my friend, and that was probably the biggest mistake I ever made. It took me about a week to make it fit, just because it was meant to be bolt on. It just didn't want to bolt on. And when I eventually did, even when I got it tuned, it was just never right. It was always just not boosting right. I had a 20-pound wastegate spring in it, and I'd only seen 19-pound just because the wastegate was adjusted wrong. So, and yeah, that car pretty much probably spent more time off the road than it did on the road. So I eventually had an issue with my clutch and decided to put a brand new one in. Against the judgment of some of my friends, I chose a brand that I thought would be good, which ended up being the nail in the coffin. I went to head out to Queensland Raceway for Matsuri a few years ago, did a U-turn, put my foot down on the clutch to go in a second, and it stuck to the floor. And that was a clutch that had been in the car for maybe a month or two, and I just cracked and left it on the side of Bow Desert Road, and eventually put it up for sale. People were laughing at me not wanting to pay $8,000 for an STI, which I don't understand, so I ended up parting the car out. Again, a pretty big regret on my behalf, because one, it was an STI, so it had all the goodies in it. Two, it actually did drive very well. All I needed to do was get a retune and fix the turbo wastegate, just tighten it up a bit more, and I would be hitting the power I wanted to hit. And with the clutch, I know next time to not cheap out on clutch and get a quality brand clutch. So that was the end of that STI, which kind of sucks because that did take a lot of money. Like, some people know how much money I spent on that car, and it was way too much. But then it brings us to my latest mistake, which is my Liberty. I don't know if you can say a mistake per se. It was a car that came to the shop to be parted out, but I had a look at it and decided that it was too nice of a car to wreck, and I ended up buying it off the gentleman, and I fixed it up. It only had very slight issues. I thought, well, we all thought the motor was dead and the gearbox was on its way, but it ended up being a loose spark plug, which obviously was a nice quick fix, and a uni joint, another very common issue with the Subarus for the gear shifter, was playing up. So they were two nice quick fixes, and the car had been going well. One of the issues I noticed the first or second night I had it was the front tyres were flat. Decided to pump them up. They were only at 10 psi, and if you've ever owned a Subaru, you know how sensitive our gearboxes are, and especially our center diffs, to having everything nice and even. And probably about 6 months to 12 months after I had it, I can't even remember how long I've had it now. Sorry, a moth just flew in front of me. I can't even remember how long I've had it. It's been a little while, but it ended up having the issue which occurs when you run mismatched tyres or different size tyres due to running 10 pound in the front wheels, which is the center diff decided to start binding up. This is where I had to make the tough decision as to whether to fix the center diff, which would involve being sent down to Melbourne and getting it refurbished and then bringing it back up and putting it in the car, or biting the bullet and doing what I wanted to do with the Forester, which would convert it to rear-wheel drive. And as most of you guys know, I chose the later, but instead of doing what I was going to do with the Forester and cheaping out on the center diff, the Forester, all I did was weld up the center diff, which was $20 I think it cost for my friend to weld for me. I actually went out and spent a fair hunk of money and bought a PPG rear-wheel drive spool, which the reason I did that is because if I ever decide to turbo the car and actually rear-wheel drive it properly, I'd rather have something safe that I know it's not going to blow up. So that's in there, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I have got a very, very weird noise in the back of the car, which I probably should try to fix, but at the moment I'm just driving it hoping it breaks so I can figure it out then. But yeah, the Liberty has been probably the best car I've owned, just because I hop in it and it works. The GCA had its little issues and bugs that I used to fix daily, but I never really complained about because I liked the GC8. The bug eye was just... We don't talk about the bug eye. It was just a mistake from day dot, which I probably should have realised sooner and got rid of, but it took me a while to figure that out, and I decided to keep it. And yeah, the Liberty, my issue is I'm bored. Like, it's such a nice car to drive, it's reliable, I don't have any issues, except for the noise in the back, which isn't an issue unless I'm trying to race someone. It's just too comfortable and it's not right. And the other thing people have finally figured out, especially with the Liberty, is the fact that I don't belong in Subarus. Like, I'm a Commodore guy. Like, I got a pretty mullet. I have a weird obsession with really bad cars that like braking. But yeah, so maybe one day I'll get a Commodore, or do the other thing that's been mentioned a few times with my friend giving me the keys to the Forester. Well, the shell of the Forester, which is LS swapping the Forester, because why not? But yeah, guys, this has probably gone on a little bit longer than I expected, and it wasn't as much of a roast on me, but it was a bit of a update for you guys. But yeah, and a memory lane trip, which it sucks because yeah, I have had some nice cars and now I have a soccer mum car, which is rear-wheel drive, don't get me wrong, but it's still a soccer mum's car. But yeah, make sure you join us on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. for our 3P Garage Live over on Facebook, Twitch and YouTube, where we talk cars, talk all Subaru stuff. We're going to try to have a few more episodes where we include you guys, where we have customers either message in, talk about their car, or even send us videos of them talking about their car, doing a tour on their car. And if you've liked this kind of content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. But yeah, again, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you guys next time. See yous. You do realise I'm still going to keep making terrible life choices until I eventually find the car that makes me right and feel happy. So there's probably going to be more episodes like this. Keep your eye out.